Howdy, howdy, and welcome back to another Workshop Wednesday. This week's edition is a Beyond Basics edition. We're going to talk today about setting up your TikTok pixels using Google Tag Manager. Now, before we go too far into this, welcome. My name is Chris Mercer. Everybody calls me Mercer. You should as well. I'm one of the instructors here at measurementmarketing.io. And whether you found us through the podcast and talks that we give, maybe through some of the platforms we share a tiny bit of our content with, maybe you're already a member over at measurementmarketing.io, whether a free Toolbox member or a paying Academy member, Academy for Marketers, Academy for Professionals, or of course, Academy for Agencies and Teams. We are happy that you're here. It's our job to help people exactly like you figure out how to use all these tools. That means staying up to date on stuff, and that means figuring out how to deal with new social media networks like TikTok. Of course, we do have the Measurement Marketing Academy, as I mentioned earlier. That is our just-in-time learning platform, and definitely encourage you to take a look at that if it makes sense to go into courses. For now, though, let's just focus on one thing. Remember, you're going to watch this. You're going to see a lot of different stuff. We're going to see part of the TikTok, easy for me to say, part of the TikTok interface. You're going to see how to do it in Tag Manager. You're going to see different ways to do it. And so just grab that one idea, one new concept, one new thing, practice that, come back, rewatch this workshop, pick up another new one thing. And that is how you learn this stuff without getting overwhelmed and frustrated. Because let's face it, there's a lot and it changes constantly. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Beyond Basics, setting up TikTok pixels using Google Tag Manager. All right, we're going to dive right in as we always do with the framework. Remember, we plan, we build, we launch. Why are we doing that? Because measurement should be taking you from marketing in the blind to just marketing that produces revenue and profits. But how does it do that, right? It's a series of very specific activities in a very specific order. First, we build our measurement plan. We make sure we're listing out the questions we're trying to get answers to. We make sure we collect the information needed to get those answers. Now, today's workshop focuses on information part because some of the information you're going to want to collect has to be sent to TikTok so that they know what conversions and they can, work their algorithmic magic. Then, of course, we think about the actions we're going to take based upon the answers we get to our questions. Then you go into the build, make sure the results are being measured. Of course, again, that means TikTok. So while you're telling maybe a platform like Google Analytics 4 that somebody just became a lead, you can tell TikTok that somebody just became a lead. We make sure the traffic's being measured. That's why we use UTMs and all that fun stuff. And then we make sure that the platform that we're using, whether it's Tag Manager, Google Analytics, Looker Studio, or anything else, that we are using it in a way that connects the dots between traffic and results. That's what creates a natural story of which traffic is causing which results. Then we move on to using our measurement. That's the launch, where we're going to listen to the conversation happening between the users and the website. The whole idea here is looking for the trends and patterns. Once we've got those, we can then forecast what our near future is going to look like based upon our recent past. So then you start measuring against your forecast, and that will point out exactly what is working and what is not. That is how you know where to optimize. And all of a sudden, marketing becomes a lot more efficient, a lot more powerful because measurement is guiding the way. That is how you get those revenue and profits from your marketing efforts. And let's face it, as we steer out of 2022 and into 2023, as of this recording, it might be a very difficult year in 2023. So you got to use everything at your disposal to get the most from your marketing efforts, and measurement is how we do that. So that's the measurement marketing framework. Now, your guest instructor today actually has done this TikTok thing quite a few times for our various clients. In addition to teaching measurement marketing since 2017, in addition to becoming a lead account manager for our dedicated measurement management clients and helping with all their setups, she is the director of measurement now over at measurementmarketing.io. And of course, our standard Looker Studio Rockstar. It is Julie Brade, returning champion. So without further ado, I'll let you go ahead and take it away, Julie Brade.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Let's go ahead and hop straight into TikTok. And one of the things that you might realize in the documentation, it's telling you to go to your event center or your events manager. Well, guess what? There is nothing on this page that says Events Manager, Events Center, or anything like that. So we're going to choose this assets and go to Events. So you guys can get exactly where you need to go to Events Managers here. Now, you could choose app events if that's the direction you want to go. Most of us are going to choose web events because that's what we're going to need, but the logic is very, very similar. So we're going to choose manage. And now here we have a couple of options to create ads or create pixel. We need to do create the pixel first. So let's go ahead and choose that option. Now we are going to name our pixel, and we also have different options of the to install it with the regular way. I'm going to call it that way, the way that we're always used to, or with the API, kind of the server side thing. So if you're already doing server side, go this route, learn more, educate yourself on this. But for most of us, we're going to choose the regular way, the basic way, so we can get started. And we're going to call this measurement marketing. We're going to call this TikTok Pixel. And we're going to choose this option here, and we're going to choose next. Now we can choose this install pixel code manually, but I want to show you what happens when we choose this option here, automatically set up web events via partner platforms, because that sounds super cool that it's automated. Yay, automation. So we're going to choose next, and we're going to choose Google Tag Manager. That's the path that we want to go through. That's the tool we want to use, and we're going to say next. Now, if you hadn't already, which we already did, we connected Google Tag Manager. We had to choose our very specific container and all of the things and check all the boxes and allow permissions. Very similar to any sort of tool that we would normally use. So I want to show you something real quick. I'm going to go to the Tag Manager container that we are using. I'm going to hit refresh. And I'm going to kind of use some little things that we're doing. I'm going to choose last edited by. And I don't see last thing was 12 days ago. Our versions we are sitting at version 295. Okay, that's something really important to note. And then what I'm going to do, we're going to choose connect, and this is where we can also sit there and force it to go through the way we want it to. If we want to reconnect it again, I'm just going to walk you through exactly how we can do this. And choose these, and we have a workspace here because we only have the default sitting here. I don't have another workspace, so you'll see why that's important here in just a moment. So now we're going to choose next. And once it kind of does its little thing, here, account connected. Let's see what's happening here. I'm just going to take it step by step so you can see what's happening when we're refreshing this again, going to our tags and seeing what's happening behind the scenes. Look at this. This is here. Like all we did is connected. We didn't even say complete setup. And as you see, there are 0 changes. What in the world does that mean? Check this. Versions 296. This TikTok published their changes without you coming in here and saying, pressing the word, submit, then publish. There is no workspace changes. This is already, let me go back, last edited. This is already live. Like if I go to our page right now, we would see it. And I didn't even come through here and publish. So for some of you, that might be fantastic. That's automated and great. However, as you notice, we were sitting in the default workspace because that's what we were doing. If you had a team member or another vendor or your client were in here making changes and they weren't quite ready to be published, you would have accidentally published their changes. And then you would have to go through it and kind of untangle that mess. So if we go the route of not, remember we had our 2 different options. One was manually, one was using the partner tool. If you go the route of the partner tool, be extremely careful with your default workspaces and stuff. So we're going to go ahead and say complete setup just for now. And then we're going to take a peek at some of the documentation they have. So if you go into just like look at TikTok Google Tag Manager, you're going to come in and see some of these different articles and things that can definitely guide you. And so you can see, hey, it's telling you choose the tool, kind of what we did there. And then we connected exactly what we did. Yay, we followed all of those steps. We're good. And then, as we saw, that we have that template that it's going to help us with as well inside of Google Tag Manager. So let's go back into our, actual TikTok here, our TikTok pixel that we have. We see that we have an ID and it's saying, hey, we don't have any data, which is perfectly fine. We're going to click on this real quick again, and we can see all of the other information that's about this particular pixel. And so normally when we think of a pixel, sometimes you think each pixel is its own thing. For instance, like I'm going to come into some of their other documentation real quick. You might think, I'm going to have everything open. So you might think add payment info or add to cart or, clicking on things. Each one of these is a different pixel. But that's not necessarily the case inside TikTok. You have a pixel, and then you have events for that pixel. So just kind of like they're nested in there. We'll show you more about that as we go through. And so if we were to go back into the setup of this particular pixel, we'll eventually see that it says, hey, you can go through and see the template that you can use inside of Google Tag Manager. But we're going to go ahead and go back into Tag Manager with our published change here. We would actually normally rename this, but I'm going to go ahead and show you what it looks like without renaming it, just in case it looks a little bit different for you so you can follow along easily. So we're going to go choose the word templates. And then we are going to look at tag templates because variables are something a little bit different. We're going to choose a tag. We're going to choose new, excuse me, not new, search. That's the other button right there. And then we're going to search for the word TikTok. And we have a TikTok pixel by TikTok. This one right here was okay. But it didn't allow you to do the things that you needed to do, like add in all the other fields and stuff that you need to make the pixel work. So this is fantastic. And we're going to choose add to workspace and just kind of go through. If you need to read all these things, go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and add. And now we see that here. Now we're going to go back to our tags. And we choose new. And we're going to choose our tag options here. We could have added the template from this spot here. We could have done that because we can search for it, TikTok, and we could say add. It tells us it's already added, so it's perfectly fine. I just want to show you that you are able to do that as well. So here's our featured ones, and then here's our custom ones, and under your custom is where you'll find these handy dandy templates. So we're going to choose TikTok Pixel. And here, remember our Pixel ID, and it says you're going to find your Pixel ID in your Events Manager. Well, where in the world is our Events Manager? Remember, this is where we are at here with our Pixel ID, or a Pixel, and here's our actual ID. And I'm going to select all of this guy right here, and we're going to copy. I'm going to come back to our Google Tag Manager here and paste. Okay, and so now we can then choose our trigger event. I really wish they chose a different word from trigger, because trigger is this thing down here where we say when we want to fire the what. And so this is our when and this is our what. And so the trigger event is a kind of a poor name. And you can even choose this documentation. Hold on, let's make sure we open that into a new tab, and it tells us all this other documentation about what are the different events and parameters and all of this fun stuff. So one really, 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 really important thing, if you don't take anything else away, take this away. This says recommended parameters. And our experience, these are not recommended, these are required. So it's kind of a misnomer here. And I hope they update their documentation, because we've actually had Pixels stop working and give errors if they don't have this information. So for instance, let's see what happens when we do a view content. This is the kind of the default one that's doing here. And so let's go ahead and choose this. We're just going to choose something where it says all pages, and we're going to call this TikTok, where it's going to say view content. And then before we go ahead and save, I want to show you another pro tip here. Super, super important, especially if you're doing something on all pages. We're going to choose our advanced settings, and then we're going to choose tag sequencing, and we're going to say fire a tag before this one. So fire a tag before this one, and we're going to choose that pixel that was pushed in here automatically. This is the reason I'm not changing the name, so you guys can find yours really easy too. All right, so now what we're saying is I need you, TikTok, to follow whatever the heck this template is telling you to do. Do it for this Pixel ID and do this event, and make sure this other tag fires first. And I need you to do that when? On all pages. That's what we're doing. So let's go ahead and save. And now we're going to go ahead and preview and just kind of walk through what it is doing. So here we can go ahead and type in, make sure we spelled that right, marketing. There we are. Perfect. Okay, so If you haven't already, you do want to go ahead and make sure you install the TikTok Pixel Helper here. And so that way you can see what is firing. And if you have a green check, that obviously means you're good. This one right here is from that tag that was automatically pushed into our Google Tag Manager and published when we were inside the Events Manager. The other one that we have here, this view content, is the one, the tag that we're using with our Google Tag Manager template. And as you can see here, it's not receiving that information. It's saying, hey, we're missing stuff. And again, that's because when we sent over our view content, we didn't pass through any of this other information through. So again, it's not recommended, it is required. So don't come through here and say like, oh, it's just recommended. It's not going to work. It's going to give you errors, and obviously errors and algorithms don't work well together. So what we're now going to do is we're going to go ahead and get out of our preview mode because we don't need to go see all of that just yet. We're going to go ahead and go back into this view content, and instead of view content, let's change it to something like, let's say, completed payment, which is another fun way of saying purchase. So we're going to go ahead and change this real quick before we forget. And payment, and we're going to change our trigger to be the same trigger that we use for all of our e-commerce purchases. And so this is where we can go through. I normally would have another screen open to say, hey, when is it that we're firing our e-com purchases, and have that as well, just so I can easily see that. But because we've been doing this forever, I know it is called, let's search up here, transaction at something old name. There we go. So I'm using the exact same trigger that I'm using for everything else that's being told there's a purchase. So they're all going to get the signal at the same time. That's the beauty of using Google Tag Manager. Every platform is being told the same thing at the same time. All right, so now we are being told, use this template, use this pixel ID. This is the thing that I need you to do, meaning this is the event I need you to send. And then remember, we have these parameters, or these, let's go back to, what are they called? Parameters, yes. However, inside the template, you have these things called object properties. And so, you can look more into this right here if you need to do the hashing. Yes, absolutely. Make sure you're not sending information that you don't need to. But for the basic setup and everything, you can go through this. It's object properties. Wish they would have called it parameters. It would have been a little bit easier to see. And again, they have little icons that help you see what it is that you need. And then there's also other documentation that kind of tells you what those little parts and pieces are of these. So, and give you a little bit more description. And we'll have these links below so you can kind of use them as well. And then you can there's all kinds of very repetitive, but lots of different ways of getting the same information. So when we are talking about the content ID, it's saying the ID of the product item, and the content type. It's going to be a little bit more of the group. So we're going to go back to our little handy dandy list here. For complete payment, we need content type, the quantity, description, content ID, currency, and value. So this is where we kind of have to use our brain a little bit. And so content type, I'm going to, it's going to be either product name or SKU. Let's just kind of think through that. Quantity, that one's easy. Description, we're going to hold off on that one just a little bit. And then ID, maybe that one should be the SKU. Currency and value, those are pretty self-explanatory there. So this is where we are going to have to work with what we have. And so we have content ID. Remember, we're thinking that could be the SKU. So because we have e-commerce already set up, we're going to go ahead and just grab the value that we already know is the SKU. And this is where we can have that from our data layer. If you don't have a data layer, you don't already have this information inside your Google Tag Manager, work with a developer or send us a message over and ask instructor support to kind of find out like, hey, does my cart do that? Or how can I do that? We'll definitely guide you with that as well. And then for content type, let's go double check, make sure is that the thing we need? Yes, we need content type. And because I don't have a description of my particular product, because our Measurement Marketing Academy or any of our measurement boot camps, we don't necessarily have a description. Ecom world, you definitely might. You might have like, shirt, and this could be red or blue or size 7 or something like that. So for us, what I'm going to do to get around this, weirdness is we're going to make sure that we call this a product. And then for our description, we're going to make sure that we call this whatever it might be to help us with this. In that case, because it's required, we're going to call this the product name only because there's not really anything else useful that we are going to have. You might have something there that would be fantastic, but for us, we don't, and maybe you don't either. So just know that you can, even though you don't have something called a description, use something that could be useful just to make sure that you have that required field filled out. I'm also going to go ahead and put it under the content name because that seems like it would be the most sense to be there. And just in case TikTok decides to make a change, be like, oh, we also want the content name. Because they actually have done that recently where they've changed it and that's when things broke. And so we're going to go ahead and just have that there because that seems like it would make sense to be there. And now we're going to do the exact same thing with the price. And so for us, that would be transaction total. And we're going to have that. And then quantity, for us, it's always 1. But however, for you, you might have a data layer variable that would have that quantity in there. So we're not going to worry about showing a variable for that because ours is always 1. Currency is always going to be USD for us. And the value, again, because we only have one product at a time, ours is always going to be the same. You might have a different data layer variable or a different, variable in general here for this particular one. And you're like, what's the difference? Well, the price might be, $1,000, but there might be a coupon or something involved. So the value, the total of the order could be, instead of $1,000, maybe it's 500. And so that's the reason why you might have a difference between the two. So, but for us, we're just going to have to use the same number to keep it nice and simple. And so now what we have done is we have gone through all of the required, even though they're called recommended fields, plus something that I personally feel that they eventually will be required as well. And so we're going to go ahead and keep that in there. Content type, you can have, again, this is where if it makes sense to your e-commerce setup, you can definitely do that. Like if it's a group of something instead of just a product, you can absolutely do that as well. So see if that makes sense. We're keeping it simple and just choosing product. And then again, we're using the same signal, the same when, the trigger, as we're doing with all of our other platforms. And we're also going to go ahead and keep this here only because I've seen it where if this does not fire first, then this will not work. So we need to make sure this happens first. And so we can do that basic tag sequencing. Obviously, there's a little bit more advanced stuff that you can do with it as well, but this is keeping it super basic. So we're going to go ahead and save here. And then what we would do is go ahead and force this to fire and test it and preview it and all of that fun stuff. But since this is a purchase and we're not going to do that, I'm going to show you another really quick tip here. And we're going to go ahead and copy this. And what we're going to do is now we're going to choose something different. So this could be an add to cart. And if you just notice what happened here is we still had a lot of these things in here. But now that we're doing an add to cart instead of an actual purchase, we're going to go ahead and have to manually add these in here. However, if you had an e-com store like WooCommerce or something else, Shopify, or like using Elevar or something, all of these little data layer variables would still be available to you. So just kind of note that your setup might be a little bit different. And so again, our content ID, so we're going to have whatever SKU it would be. So I'm just going to make something up. We're going to call this the Measurement Marketing Academy. Let's call it MMA is the SKU. Content name, we're calling it Measurement Marketing Academy. And the price, we're going to say monthly $297. And then again, value, we're going to keep that the same because we're going to keep it nice and easy. We're just adding all these things in. And again, we would double check TBV, trust but verify. What is it that it needs here? And so we're going to make sure we have all those parts and pieces. And then instead of it firing when there's a purchase, we're going to choose our little rings and we're going to look for something that maybe we've already had. So we're going to look for a cart or order form or something that we already have that would work for that. And so we're going to look up order forms because that's what we have that we normally do. And so here is one right here, and it's actually something we've been using for testing. And so we're going to go ahead and save this. And actually, it's not a completed payment anymore. So we're going to say add to cart and make sure we get rid of the copy of and choose save. And then again, we're going to go ahead and go into preview, making sure we don't have any other ones already there. And going to measurementmarketing.io. And the trigger, the when of our tag that's supposed to fire, is going to be whenever we load an order form. So we're going to see this here, and we only have one. And we're seeing that we have a page view, exactly what we would expect. Now we load this one. I would expect to see the one, which is a page view. And now, as long as our tag sequencing and everything is correct, I would expect to see that once we go through this other part, we're going to go ahead and say this is Julie Brody at Julie at, and here we go. And so this is the signal that Google Tag Manager is looking for right now in this very specific example. And we're going to come over here and we're not seeing it fire as of this moment. All we're seeing is a page view. So this is where we go back to our tags and say what happened. And it's because we're not enabled just yet. So we're going to go ahead and enable and then see what happens. And now we see what it is that we're expecting to see. And so we have two of the add to carts right now. I think that's just because we reloaded the page and it's catching up. And so again, we have a green check because we didn't assume that these were recommended. We made sure that those were required. We treated those like required fields. And so now we are seeing these here. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh again and see if that's going to just happen once or if it's going to happen twice or extra time. So there we go. So it's only 2 times, perfect. So it didn't have to do with that with the preview. So now we are seeing everything in here that we need to see. Again, the way you get your information in here is going to be different for every single type of platform that is out there. We just showed you a couple of different ways that you are able to do that, like where you can type it in manually. You just have to be very specific on what pages those would happen. I would actually choose this to be only Academy order form pages and not this. And so because of this price, it would be only the monthly Academy order form. And so there are lots of ways we could do this manually. You could also use the data layer variables like we did with completed payment. And again, there's lots of different ways to get this depending on your platform, your cart platform, and whatnot. So that's all that. And then be very careful how you install your pixel. Just be aware that if you choose the option to use the partner tool inside of TikTok, it will automatically publish for you. If you are the only one back here, no big deal. Just be aware of it and have that here as well. And you can even see, hey, we're telling it to fire right before those as well. And then one other real quick note here that you might have to learn the hard way, just like we did, is that TikTok takes a little while to see your data. You cannot choose today's date. It's going to kind of force you to be the day before. It's never going to allow you to choose today's date. I don't say not never. Currently, the most current truth is you cannot see today's data. So I would highly encourage you to run some tests, kind of push through the information early enough. Don't try to set up your pixel and launch here the next same hours because you need to give time to confirm that everything's working the way expected and go through that and then come back 24 hours later, literally 24 hours later. It takes a while. If I come in here in 12 hours, it might not be here yet. And so, but if you have lots of traffic, maybe it would. Just be aware that you can't set everything up and then watch stuff come through in real time. It doesn't work that way currently. So just be aware of that and just kind of watch through. You can see your different events that goes through. You can test through here, but I like to, since we're using Google Tag Manager, I like to kind of see things happening live and go through there. And again, you can go through your settings and kind of see the different base code if you wanted to do something different with those. And then I'd be caution you to use this add event builder inside of TikTok because you're using Google Tag Manager. Don't go this route if you're using Google Tag Manager because it will make things really messy. It is kind of a neat thing. However, you're going to have infinite flexibility using Google Tag Manager, and you're able to, again, give the same signals to all of the different platforms at the exact same time as opposed to what you'd be able to do here. So it just kind of fractures your measurement, and we don't want to do that. So that is how you get TikTok set up inside of Google Tag Manager the correct way, the safe way, the efficient way, and trying to avoid all of those issues. So I'm going to send it back over to you. Thanks.
Holy cow! So much incredible stuff there. Thank you, Julie. So when we go through this and you're thinking through, obviously, TikTok and how it's going to be implemented. If you've got questions about it, if you're trying on your own and you're already an Academy member, and unfortunately, we don't offer Ask Instructor support for the free Toolbox members, but if you're a paying Academy member, you've got access to Ask Instructor support with Julie and the rest of the instructor team back there, where they've got experience setting this stuff up. So if you need some help, just let them know. What was your one thing? I know for me, there's a lot of stuff. One is I personally despise the auto connect stuff that everyone's trying to do because Facebook does that same thing where they'll go in there, they inject everything in your container, they screw everything up, and they publish it for you. That's exactly what TikTok's doing. It's horrible. So please don't do that. Go nice and slow, as Julie said. You got to just be aware of what's about to happen because they're not telling you, they're doing it. They just do it. And again, Facebook does the same thing. And there's so many student implementations that we've got in the Academy where we have to unwind all that stuff and help students sort of pull it all back out because it was put in there not with any particular strategy, right? It was put in there for TikTok's benefit or Facebook's benefit, not for yours. So make sure that you kind of piece it together on your own because you're a measurement marketer. You know this stuff. Next, I think for me, recommended being required. That was kind of cool, like what she was talking about. Like you can see it in the tag template too. They have some optional stuff and tags there, but recommended in TikTok world doesn't necessarily mean recommended. It means required because things have stopped broke because of that. The tag template, the fact that there's a TikTok pixel out, that's kind of brand new. So that's fantastic. And that it's made by TikTok is even better. And then the TBVing, you can trust but verify. You can test things out with the TikTok extension. So you kind of saw everything full circle. Lots of one things there. Remember how it fits in the framework is the information you can now get because you can ask questions around how is TikTok performing? Is it performing what it's supposed to perform? Is the traffic that we're sending designed to get maybe add to carts? Is it getting them to add to cart? Because you would set that up as a result. Is it getting purchases? Because you would set that up as a result. Is it getting them to view content or engage with your brand? Because it's setting that up as a result. So this is where it all fits into the framework and as part of your own measurement strategy. Next week is the final, I know it's sad, the final Workshop Wednesday, but only for 2022. In our final Workshop Wednesday for 2022, we're going to talk about 2023 predictions, and we're going to talk about the measurement tools you're going to be using in 2023. And if you're not using them now, you most likely will. So that's what we're going to be talking about. If you want to make sure you get that workshop, just subscribe. And of course, like if you happen to like this particular topic. That lets us know that you want more TikTok stuff, and we'll keep it coming for you. Either way, we look forward to seeing you as part of the YouTube channel. You also have the option of joining the Measurement Marketing Academy. Remember, there are free option is the Toolbox where you get this Workshop Wednesday. You always have the most recent one, plus all the tools get unlocked for you. This is something that we in the future might start charging for, so please take advantage of this now. And I apologize if it's no longer available. If you happen to be watching this and weeks or months have gone by and we no longer offer it for free, but grab it now while you can so that you have that. The one thing we ask that you use it so that we can make sure that people back there are getting access to everything that they want. Of course, you also have the paid versions, the Academy for Marketers. If you want, it unlocks all the courses and the workshops and the Ask Instructor support and Winner Circle and everything else that's back there. We have Academy for Professionals, which gives you access to the Measurement Mastermind that we have every week with our professionals that are back there. And if you're in a measurement professional, it's definitely a great group to be a part of. And then we've got the Academy for Agencies and Teams. That's really if your organization needs more of a measurement culture and you want to get your team trained. You get your own dedicated instructor that's assigned to your team, and they walk you through everything with the Academy. They have multiple seats in the Academy, and they make sure that your team is learning all this stuff so that you have a measurement culture going into 2023. How cool would that be? To check out all the current options that are available for you, just go to measure.tips/get academy to learn more, and we look forward to seeing you back there soon. This has been Beyond Basics, setting up TikTok pixels using Google Tag Manager. Thanks again for watching this workshop, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.